To go from a place of complacency and thinking everything's great to then going through the most volatile, tumultuous, financially challenging, personally challenging period that you could possibly imagine, with my best friend dying and all of this stuff happening concurrently. I guess you hit rock bottom. You feel like you're going to break into 1,000 pieces. And the only way for you to do that is to go, well, I've got to change. The only way my business can change is if I change.
Well, hello again. How are you all? I hope all is well. So welcome back to another episode of our Finding Equilibrium podcast. And today I've got a super special guest. Delighted to have found that you found some time for us, Luke. Luke's somebody I met when I first came to Australia. It must be almost 4 years ago, and then I had a great privilege of working closely with Luke through 3 years of a lot of change. And I always say that, Luke, you're the person. If I was going to name one person who can teach everybody about resilience, you're the person to actually do that. So I'm really pleased that you're here today. And maybe for the audience's benefit, if you could just talk a little bit about yourself. I mean, for those people who are in Australia, everyone will know Sumo Salad, which is a household brand. For those outside of Australia, Sumo Salad is Luke's baby. He created it and built it to millions of dollars of revenue. And Luke, why don't you tell us how you started, how you got to create Sumo Salad, and what's happening with you today?
Yes, thanks, Lawrence. Yeah, well, it's very rare I get called a super special guest, so that's very much appreciated. Not sure if I 100% agree, but thank you nonetheless. But yeah, look, I was very fortunate to meet Lawrence 4 years ago when we started it, when we were sort of making this big transformation within our business, and it was almost like sometimes in life when you meet people at the most fortuitous time where they need to be part of your life. So we were going through this big change, and I was also going through my own sort of personal change. And to meet Lawrence, it was sort of like almost like a glowing beacon when he came in and had this great amount of expertise and experience, and was also right in the sweet spot around wellness and mindfulness. And it was all the stuff that I was really starting to heavily embark on. And we just sort of really glued and had just a huge amount of commonality in what we wanted to achieve in our value system. And off the back of that, we've enjoyed just a fantastic relationship, and now still is a very, very close friend of mine to this day. So, I guess that's the sort of context of why we're here today. But Sumo started 17 years ago, and through that time, it's been such an amazing business, but such a challenging business. And it's almost like, when you see a duck paddling on the water, you think everything's smooth and it's just going from, this sort of trajectory, but it's been far from that. We've been paddling under the surface. Those little legs of ours have been paddling under the surface at light speed to try to sort of keep up with the market and transform our business, particularly over the last few years. When we started the business, there was just a huge hole for well-being and healthy foods, and very few people were taking nutrition and seriously. And there was very few options around for people to readily access healthy, nutritious foods. So off the back of that, James and I, my best mate at the time, started the business, and we're able to build that into a $90 million a year business. And then, I guess we sort of went through this period in our lives and in our business where we had almost like the Midas touch, where everything we touched turned to gold. And I think when everything's going so successfully and so well, that you almost take it for granted. You think that that's just the way it is, and why can't everyone else sort of get it right? Why are we sort of you take for granted your position, and sometimes that can breed a little bit of complacency, and then off the back of that complacency, then obviously someone else comes in and goes, geez, I can do this bigger and better, and the market shifts, and then all of a sudden you're sort of swimming against the tide trying to keep up. And so from building that business into an $86 million, $90 million a year business, we then saw it decline significantly over several years, where we had competitors getting opened up directly in front of our stores, taking big chunks of our revenue, and a lot of our people that we thought were friends and partners really taking advantage of us and actively trying to sort of accelerate the demise of our business. And off the back of that, we went through this massive restructure where we had to put our business into voluntary administration, to get out of some of the leasing liabilities because of some pretty poor conduct. And off the back of that, then we've had to really try to transform our business, taking that brand that we developed, which was known and trusted, and then completely converting it into another application. And for the time Lawrence and I were working together, we were able to take what was known as a sort of a healthy food court brand into a brand that's synonymous with now ready meals and into supermarkets, and doing our own sort of e-commerce side of the business, and those new channels, and that transformation has pretty much set us up for the future. Otherwise, I think it's safe to say now we would have finished as a business after 15 years of hard work. There would have been no path for us to continue.
Wow.
And I guess during that time, my best friend who I started the business with passed away. We've had landlords and shareholders and all sorts of different things happen, changes and highs and lows. And it's been an incredibly volatile business to be in, while there's been so much sort of change in our environment, and trying to keep up with that. And so when we're talking about resilience, trying to sort of keep a level head and and keep focused on the bigger picture and the bigger purpose of why you set up the business is incredibly challenging when you've got so many things almost like working against you or conspiring against you. You feel like at the time to bring you down, but you've just got to keep focused on that bigger picture to keep you motivated to go in day to day and keep fighting that fight, knowing that it's worth it.
Let me just interject there, because there's so much there, and when you relate to what you just said to the present context, a lot of people are going to be going through very uncertain times. Businesses that they've built up over many years, suddenly the market's changed. People that they've worked with may suddenly turn into competitors. So there's so much there, and first of all, huge well done for making it to 17 years, because I forget what the actual rate is of business success, but there's an extraordinary number of businesses that fail within the first 5 years. So building a business to that level is a huge achievement in its own right, but then being able to pivot that business and transform it and turn it into what it is today is an amazing achievement. But just picking on that word resilience, and particularly you personally, and you've touched on this about having a vision, but break that down. So those moments during that time when it felt like you're swimming against the tide, I think they were your words. It must have crossed your mind that it would have been easier just to have given up or done something else. What tools did you use, or how did you continue pushing forward and battling to be able to turn things around? What was it that drove you during those times?
Yeah, you're right. It's interesting because you think of the analogy of swimming against the tide, but it's when I think about it, it's more like sort of throwing yourself off a cliff and seeing the gap widen as you're halfway through the air, and you're thinking, "Oh, geez, I've got enough momentum to get to the other side." So, and when you've decided to throw everything at it and put, just everything you've got, and make so many personal sacrifice and financial sacrifice, and put just leave nothing behind, then you really are so heavily invested emotionally, and your family is so heavily invested emotionally. All your support network want to see it, come together. And you almost deem failure of that as part of yourself. You see, you and the business almost become sort of one entity to a certain degree. And I guess that's how, when you're going through these incredibly tumultuous times, you're not just dealing with businesses struggles and challenges, but you're also going through your own sort of demons at the same time, and having to not just troubleshoot and problem solve the business, but you also have to troubleshoot and evolve your own mentality and physicality, and all those things that you need to rely on to dive deep into yourself, to get the strength to be able to sort of see it through as a leader in the business. Because particularly when you're a leader in the business, everyone looks to you for, is it going to be okay? Are we going to make this? And you've got to look them in the eye and say, we've got this covered, even though full well there's every chance that it's going to go to shit. So but you've got to have a plan. You've got to have this degree of confidence, and you've got to have this unrelenting ability to get through the other side and problem solve, and ensure that you get to that position of safe, steady footing. And so, when I started the business, and to go from a place of complacency and thinking everything's great, to then going through the most volatile, tumultuous, financially challenging, personally challenging period of that you could possibly imagine, with my best friend dying and all of this stuff happening concurrently. I guess you hit rock bottom. You feel like you're going to break into 1,000 pieces. And the only way for you to do that is to go, well, I've got to change. The only way my business can change is if I change. And for me to change, I had to basically just acknowledge that, I don't know a lot. I'm not, I need to learn and grow and understand things, and understand different perspectives, get more knowledge about health, well-being, get more knowledge about leadership, resilience, challenges. And so I sit on this sort of, in order to sort of, base position is shit. I've got to almost pick myself up from ground zero, and the first step from there is, okay, well, what are the things I need to know to then take that next step? So then I sort of embarked on this journey to go and try to acquire as much knowledge on things that were necessary for me to develop as a person, and that included my spirituality, my physicality, my mental health, my business health, all of these things. I had to go and start to study and read and learn about, because I had no idea. I thought I was living in fool's paradise. And as I learned more and more and more, I realized, I really don't know a lot at all. And I realized that there's just so much that I've been missing through that because I've been so singularly focused on a particular outcome, all this other background and rounded knowledge that I need to be a better person, I was missing out on. And so the more I learned, the more I figured out, and the more I sort of learned about myself, and the more comfortable I became in myself and my opinions and my, the person that I became. And I always felt like through that period, there was something almost like missing inside of me. I felt like there was a piece that I was chasing to sort of feel like I'd completed it. And I thought that was the success of the business. But then after going through a whole range of sort of self-development and getting to know myself, I realized that was completely misguided. That what I needed to know is that me as an entity, as a being, is whole, and these things that I'm developing are to sort of grow me as a being. And from taking that slight shift in the way I perceive myself and the way I visualize myself, I was then able to change the way in which I learn, the way in which I engage, the way in which I problem solve, and by changing that methodology, I was then able to see much different outcomes and effects, and start that journey of growth.
Wow. So it was really a start with hitting rock bottom, and then setting on a quest to acquire knowledge. How did you know? Like, where did you start in terms of acquiring knowledge? Because I know you're a huge reader, but what was the first book? Like, where did you begin on that quest for knowledge?
That's a good question. I've read so many books. It's hard to remember the first one. I think the first step wasn't actually a book. It was my investor saw that I was stressed out, and he recommended a coach.
Okay.
And so the coach then got me to write down my values, and what they call sort of I am statements. So I sort of figured, and to do that is quite confronting, because you have to think about what you are and what you want to be. And so I did that as a sort of a first step, and took some sort of personal coaching. And at first I thought, this is going to be bullshit. This is going to be, some guy just trying to sort of, wrangle some extra dollars out of me. I'll get no value. But what it did is it started me off on just being a little bit more self-aware. And then from there, I went and started to do a meditation course to sort of calm my mind and sort of be a little bit more, have a slightly more sort of calm, rational perspective, because I was under so much pressure, and I was always in this sort of fight or flight mode where I was trying to, survive almost. And by then starting to take some, to do mindfulness as a daily part of my routine, I was then starting to be able to calm my mind, think rationally, use my creativity and my brain, not just my automatic response. And off the back of making those sort of first two changes, then I was able to start to read books, and then because I had a bit more, I could take it in, I could think of the books, I could think of the information more creatively, and have a much better perspective on that knowledge, rather than it just be while you're in this huge amount of adrenaline and anxiety, it just sort of goes in one ear out the other. I was able to really absorb that knowledge and apply it to my own situation, because I was coming at it with a sort of a different mindset. And off the back of that, then it just became a systematic approach to what are the things I need to learn and what are the priorities. And yeah, probably 1,000 books or so later, it was still finding out how much you don't learn, and it's never ending, I guess.
Yeah. So out of that, I'm going to ask you the question: if you've read 1,000 books, like, which are the ones that bubbled to the top of that whole 1,000?
I'm right into the spiritual books at the moment. So I read a really good one, called Letting Go. Which
you recommended that to me. Yeah, that's great. I read it.
Yeah, absolutely love that. I've read the Tao Te Ching probably over 20 times. There's other books like there's a heap of business books. But I reckon if I was to look at the two books that had the most profound impact, it was probably Letting Go and the Tao Te Ching. Because I could just relate to it. It's just gave me so much that I could, I don't know, I guess contextualize the world in which I lived in and the situation I was in, and my tendency to be so extreme, and see it for what it was, and see that there's another way. And you don't have to have this huge amount of attachment to every situation. Sometimes it's good just to do your best and be content with that, and not take, not have that in-depth attachment to everything, because you're always disappointing yourself and you're always falling short of your own expectation. And in your mind, you're always falling short of other people's expectation, which creates this sort of downward spiral. So they're probably the two biggest books that I think have had the impact. But there's shitloads. There's so many that are good, depending on the sort of the subject matter.
Thank you for that. What else did you do in terms of because I know you're a big exerciser, you have a lot of discipline around exercise, and obviously food is what you do professionally. But I'd love you for you to share some of the things that you've done to support yourself physically as well as mentally over the last few years, in particular, where the business has been going through such huge transformation.
Yeah, so I guess I was at a stage in life where I was, instead of dealing with it in the right way, I'd go out and drink and to try to sort of almost put a mask over the situation, which would inadvertently just make it a compounded problem, because you not only the problem doesn't go away, it amplifies, and you've got less. I guess you've got less mental resilience to be able to deal with it when you're in that compromised state. So the first thing I did a few years ago was to stop drinking alcohol and just really try to preserve my mind, and make sure that that's probably one of the bigger changes. And off the back of that, then getting up and going for a jog, or getting up early and going for a swim, or meditating, or doing your sort of daily exercise became a lot easier. There was never an excuse that I can't do it. So I guess you get to that point where you get into this routine where you exercise as much for your mentality than you do for your physicality. And for me, I just love that little ritual of what, and to me now, it's almost like the two are interconnected, the mental and physical, which you always think I'll meditate for my mind and I'll jog for my, cardiovascular, but to me, it's all
together
now sort of together.
Mm.
And it's been interesting. So even to the point where now you sort of wake up and you do these breathing exercises, and they seem a bit stupid to start with, but you do that and you sort of get through the shyness of it, and all of a sudden you're in a really good. Oh, sorry. So you're in a really good mental place, and every morning what I try to do is listen to some positive affirmations, because sometimes you wake up after having a shitty day the day before, and you don't get the best sleep because you're still stressed out. To then almost like wash your mind full of all those negative thoughts with some really good affirmations, it just slightly puts you on a different tangent for the day. And rather than working off a tangent where you're in worry and anxiety about the day to come and the problems of yesterday, you're in this more positive frame of mind. And then from there, then I exercise, which reinforces, that sort of positive state of mind and positive physical start to the day. And off the back of that, then you're almost working off a very sort of good foundation to then tackle problems, I guess much more resiliently.
That's really interesting. So that all makes perfect sense. I guess when people hear about stopping drinking alcohol altogether, is that what you did? You just cut it out, or did you gradually reduce it? And how has that, second part of the question is, how has that impacted your life, I guess your social life, by not drinking alcohol? Has it been easy to sustain that, or or challenging?
It's almost when you want to do something like that, you just know. Like it's when other people tell you to, and you do it for the wrong reasons. It's quite a superficial thing. Whereas I guess I just got jack of it. I knew that I wasn't happy. I knew that I needed to make change. I knew that I was doing it for the wrong reasons. And it's you just sort of get to this place where you go, I've got nothing to lose, everything to gain. I'm just going to give it a go. And I think the key to it was don't think of it as a forever thing. Think of it as I'm going to do it today thing. Then think of it as oh, that was good. I've done a week. I'm going to see if I can do another week. And I guess it's you don't want to sort of stand at the bottom of Everest and look up and go, holy shit, I could die on this mountain, and I've got days and days of treacherous hiking. You just want to take it step by step and get up there, and and not be overwhelmed by that decision. And so when I did it, I sort of didn't have any real intent to do it for the amount of time that I have, but whilst I was enjoying it, I keep trying to, I guess, revalidate that I was enjoying it, and I could see the benefits, and that behaviour and that cycles kept on going, and it's been great. Like it's been great for my relationships, although I'm not the sort of class clown at the pub, but you catch up with people differently. You go for walks and runs, and you go sit down and have proper chats. You're not just doing shenanigans at the pub. You have a different level of relationship and a more, I guess, in-depth relationships, because you make effort to catch up with the people that you want to catch up with, and it's a very sort of purposeful catch up. So I don't feel like there's been a huge amount of compromise in making the decision to quit alcohol, but the benefits have been, life-changing. And like I said, it's nothing's forever, but at the moment, I've got no intent of changing that. It's been amazing, and my wife, my kids, everyone sort of sees the benefits of that by just, being happier and healthier and being more in the moment because of it.
That's amazing. Well done. What would you say to someone, I mean, given the context of now, and a lot of people are, their worlds have been disrupted, and they're facing a very uncertain future. Either they've lost their job, or there's a risk they'll lose their job, or their business has really struggled and has really suffered. What advice, given you've been through such a period over a long time of ups and downs, and you've made significant change to your own life, and you've really supported yourself at every level, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling, who is where you were, say, 5 years ago?
Stop caring about it. Is the first. I know that sounds completely off the charts, bizarre, but the more you start to spiral on that, like I've lost my job, I can't do this, I can't. It just creates this whole cloud that starts to spiral you, and you need to at that time not spiral. You need to be very pragmatic and solutions focused, and not sort of fall into that hole. So try to lose the attachment to the situation and try to look at it like you're trying to give someone else advice, so that you can then sort of listen to that advice yourself in a rational way, and then take actions to change your situation. At the end of the day, every single situation can be changed if we decide to do that. And that's the one thing I've learned. There's no matter what adversity, no matter what gets thrown at you in life, we've all got the power to make change. And so first of all is to try to step aside and think about it, practically and pragmatically. Figure out what are the changes that are going to best serve you, best serve your family, best serve your situation, and then go about taking small steps to achieve those key priorities. And what you find is that what starts as a silly idea and something that becomes very sort of off the wall soon becomes your reality. And the craziest ideas and the things that are most outside of your comfort zone when you're making these sort of big pivotal changes in your life, very quickly become a reality, and become everyone around you's reality as well. So, and I guess just having that self-belief that it can happen and will happen, and it always works out. No matter what happens in life, it always works out.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant advice. Looking back at all of your experience that you've been through, and thank you again for sharing with us, what are some of the other learnings that you've got now that you wish you had when you were younger, and perhaps part of the journey is to go through those learnings? Like there are some things that you can learn from other people, but there are other things that to really get the benefit, you have to do the work and go through the pain, so to speak, to get to the other side. But what are some of the key learnings that you've got now that you would advise and share with other people?
Well, for me personally, I guess I've had to go through a real challenging and adverse sort of time to figure out that I guess I do indeed need to change and need to grow, and that's probably the first thing that I've had to sort of identify, and I guess once I've made that, once I've figured that out, it's almost like for the harshest things that happen in your life, the things that you just think are going to absolutely buckle you, they're the things that you actually, when you look at it retrospectively, you go, shit, that was such a big lesson for me in my life, that without that have occurring, I would not be the same person. I would not have the same thoughts on this or predisposition of what I do today. So you've almost got to let time run its course and not just get so caught up in that moment, and then just have the ability to look back on it in a few months' time and just see the situation for what it was. So, I guess to answer your question, would I change anything? Shit, I would have, if I went down to the lottery and got $1 million. There's a million things I probably would have changed. But have all those challenges that are, have they added value to my life? Absolutely, they have. Have they made me a better person, a stronger person, a more equipped person, a more present person? 100%. All of those things that I thought were going to buckle me have all added to the strength of character that you need to sort of get through and better yourself. So. And to me, the more that's happened, I guess the better the quality of my life has become, because I now look at things slightly differently, or very differently, and you can be calm and happy in a situation that otherwise you would have been in emotional turmoil, you would have been in an emotional wreck, you would have been down in yourself. But just to be able to be in a really shit situation and have a perspective that, oh, geez, I can deal with this. It's not too bad. I've got this, is probably one of the best things that sort of come out of those times. And that I guess that's what it comes down as resilience, right? It's how you survive, how you live to see the next day. And a lot of it comes down to that mentality in the moment that enables that resilience.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. That's really great insights. Thank you for sharing that with us. So if we just bring it back to the present day, so talk to us about what's happening now in the business. You mentioned ready meals. Where can people find you and access the meals and the services? What's the current situation?
Yeah, so I mean, from going from 130 stores, we're now down to 30 stores. So you can sort of imagine how much change has occurred within our business. And now we're in several hundred supermarket stores throughout Coles, throughout independent retailers. And we've built a business that was greater than the business we had previously now with this change. Um, so so the business now has got a huge wholesale side of the business, where with a lot more scalability. Just 2 seconds, if you don't mind. So I'm just going to. So my kids have just got back from school, and
No, don't worry. I think we're all used to the joys of working at home.
they're getting to do their homework and showing a lot of resilience to not do it, or resistance, I should say, more like it. Okay, so so we're across a lot of the supermarkets. We've also now got we were able to purchase a business called Thrive Meals, and so if you go to thrivemeals.com.au, that's all about high protein, sort of high veg, no processed carbs, no sugars, no really healthy good meals that fuel your body with the maximum amount of proteins and energy to perform at your optimal level. So we've got an e-commerce direct-to-home business called Thrive Meals, and that's gone absolutely gangbusters through COVID, with people, now figuring out that they do need to, eat properly and look after their, physical and mental well-being through better dietary choices.
And you deliver those through Australia?
All through the east coast of Australia. So we hit about 4,000 postcodes on the east coast of Australia. So, and they've been probably the big changes from where we were to where we are today. We're now much more of a brand that specialises in well-being, that has thousands of different distribution points, as opposed to being a very controlled, infrastructure-led business with 100 stores that was very high risk, high operating cost, high everything, a very clunky business. So the business has completely pivoted. And if you guys get a chance to go to one of the leading supermarkets in Australia or jump online and see that, then I'm sure you'll really enjoy the food. It's great quality food, really good for you.
Awesome. Well, Luke, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know how super busy you are, but let me just acknowledge you for everything you've done. It's an incredible story in terms of that beginning, in terms of setting out on a journey which you probably didn't realize where it would lead, and then your own personal journey, which has really supported. It's transformation at every level, isn't it? It's transformation at a business level to transformation at a personal level, where you're now at a point where you've got a whole system in place that can support you to cope and drive through situations, no matter how grim they may be. And I think one of the things that you said really resonated with me. It's like, when you're in the moment, it may feel like the world is falling apart, but it's in those moments that you've got to remember that things will get better. This is all part of the learning. You can't really judge a situation until you look at it with that fullness of time. So thank you so much for spending time, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.